The Mission Viejo Nadadores dive team is legendary. The Marguerite Aquatics Complex is the site of legendary diving and swimming history. Today, we gear up for a resurgence in both, as the Aquatic Complex is completing its final steps in a $10 million facelift, while the Nadadores dive team has legendary Olympic diver and former Nadador Michelle Mitchell back in Mission Viejo, and now as their head coach. There's plenty of excitement in Mission Viejo. I'm Paul Higgins. This is Coach's Corner, and all the action starts right now. Michelle, thanks for joining us. I feel weird that we're by the pool complex here, and I'm dressed in layers.
As am I.
Yeah, but it's a cool,
day.
winter day, because we're still in winter, right?
Right.
But not so far in the distant future, this will be an active complex. How excited are you?
You know, not only am I excited, the entire community of Mission Viejo is excited. The teams, both swimming and diving, have been pool hopping for over 18 months. The swim team has been hopping at 11 pools. The diving team has been hopping at 3 or 4. So the dedication of these families, of this program, and the kids, and the driving, and the coaches has been unbelievable. I've just come on the scene recently. But, you know, for 18 months, it's been a project just to move kids from place to place to get them a workout.
The logistics of that is insane.
Yeah.
And I know that it takes a lot for you and, as you said, the parents, but I guess most importantly here is the athletes.
Right.
So when the city of Mission Viejo finally completes this $8 million project, which is pretty amazing,
Right.
They're going to have a home for a long time. You spent your home at University of Arizona for 15 seasons. How excited are you to be here in Southern California, where you had quite a few dives off the old platform?
You know, I was here in the 80s when this place was the mecca for the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, then you kind of graduate out and you move on and you go have a family and a life and that kind of thing. And I had recently retired from University of Arizona, having been a coach and administrator there in the athletic department. And this job opportunity came up, and when I started talking to some of the people on the committee and things like that, you know, it was a great opportunity to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
And to come back around. And, you know, Coach Schubert and I are very dedicated to working together to make this whole program rise.
Yeah.
And the world is literally waiting to come back. There are events coming, there are international teams that want to come train here. I mean, these doors are going to be thrown wide open here very soon.
Is it harder to start a program or revive a program with a history that Mission Viejo has?
You know, Mission Viejo has a legacy like very few other programs in the country. So I don't know the answer to that. You know, you're kind of starting a program, but there's this great tradition and legacy, and the whole world of aquatics knows it.
Yeah.
And we want to get back to where we were, but I give a lot of credit to the coaches in the interim years.
Yeah.
And they held the program together and kept it moving forward.
Can you remind me of the club team back in the day when you were here that was your biggest competition? For some reason, I'm thinking Florida, but where am I wrong there? Because you had a nemesis. I forget who it is.
Well, when we were here in the 80s, Greg Louganis, Wendy Weiland, Wendy Williams, myself, number of Megan Nyer, number of Olympians came out of here. Our nemesis back then was Ohio State, Texas, and Michigan.
Okay.
And the Olympic teams were always made up of kids from those programs. Yeah.
Gosh, you just reminded me, the male diver from Michigan, was it Kimble?
Bruce Kimble.
Yeah. How's he doing now? Do you know, or?
Bruce is he's a physical education teacher at New Trier High School in Chicago, so he's giving back to the community. Absolutely.
And was his dad a coach as well?
His dad was, yeah.
Okay.
Dick Kimble, who is about 85 and still on rollerblades and probably runs a half a marathon every morning. It's pretty amazing. He retired from coaching, but he is still going around doing clinics and things like that, pulling kids in the belts. The guy's amazing.
Yeah.
Energizer bunny.
You won back-to-back silver medals in 2 Olympics, and 80 and 84, amazing Olympics here, and of course Seoul, and the Winter Olympics were in Seoul. And I read an interesting article that you wrote about too, or that you were obviously quoted a number of times as saying that the Olympics is not about the medal, it's about the experience and about the experience of everyone you bring along.
Right.
And can you verbalize that for us?
The fun of being an Olympian, I mean, it's cool for you to be there and be in the village and be competing against your world peers, but the real fun of it is the bragging rights that you then extend by virtue of being on the trip to your family, your kindergarten teacher, your church group. They all have a reason to tune in and have watch parties and to really be cheering for someone because they know you. And honestly, like, that's what holds. You ask any Olympian, they'll tell you the same thing. It's the friendships that you make,
Right.
and it's the opportunity for your family to just completely enjoy the moment.
Sure.
Because they contributed too, as did your kindergarten teacher and your church group and whatever it might be. So you kind of carry this whole village with you as you proceed into an Olympic Games.
You know, I've done so many different interviews with athletes, and I'm always in awe of the talent, the athletic skill that athletes like you possess. Do you recognize that type of skill and mental aptitude when you meet a young athlete and you go, that reminds me of someone I know, me? Tell me about that, because as a coach, I'm guessing that you don't mess around as a coach. I'm pretty sure of that just by meeting you, right? And I think you're pretty straightforward. What about discovering talent and realizing, could they be an Olympian?
You know, I've been able to peg two kids that when I met them at 5, 6, 7, I said to their parents, if your child stays with it, they will be on an Olympic team. I've pegged 2 in my career.
Wow.
It's called the X Factor. That's what coaches call it. And it's something that's really not tangible, but it's definitely something you can see as a coach.
Sure.
And it's that grit and determination and work ethic and not taking, you just don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And it's not something you can really teach someone either. It's just sort of innate in very special athletes across all sports.
How do you tell a parent just the opposite when they think that their son or daughter is going to be in the Olympics and you know for sure it's not going to happen? Or maybe you don't know for sure, but you know pretty good chance this kid's not going to make it. It's going to be a great person maybe one day or whatever, but they're not going there. How do you convince the parents that, or do you even convince the parents that?
You know, I don't think that's something a coach has the right to say because you don't know.
Okay.
And I think parents these days put their kids in sports for fitness, for lifestyle, in theory to move through their educational process, to spit out at the other end and have a college scholarship potentially, or at least be a part of a college program.
Right.
Just being a part of a college program these days has its own rewards. You know, there's academic help, there's physical help in the training room, there's strength coaches, psychological, all of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents, that's really what their end goal is.
And you never want to ruin their
absolutely not.
Yeah, it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
And I know that your parents were extremely proud of what you've done. And now that you're coaching and you have coached, what do you take from the University of Arizona those 15 years? Is there a moment, is there somebody that you were a mentor of or a protege and you I'm going to take that here?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
you
that
share
happened to me probably the moment, in 15 years, is I found a young man named Ben Grotto who was out of Colorado, and the video that he sent me of his diving was like some underground. It was a horrible video, but you could see the talent in the child. And so I was one of the only coaches that recruited him. He was a gymnast that had been at the Olympic Training Center and broken his wrist.
Okay.
So he was making the transition. And when I got to know him, I told his father he'll be an NCAA champion by his senior year.
Wow.
And I just knew that. And he was the kind of kid that had the talent, but he also had the don't take no for an answer attitude.
Right.
And he wanted it so bad he'd spit bullets every day at practice.
Right.
And his senior year, he was an NCAA champion. And it was, I'm not a crier.
Yeah.
I shed a few tears that night
Yeah.
because he was diving that night from the heart. I didn't even need to coach him. He knew the moment had come. He knew he was ready for it. He knew I was there. And so he was doing every dive for me because I believed in him when no one else did. And that's the heartwarming, those are the types of stories that as a coach, that's what keeps you going.
Here at the city of Mission Viejo, can you bring us up to date on where the team is right now in the sense of talent and you don't have to name names, obviously, but where are we right now?
This program has been a hopscotch program for 18 months. The kids actually, I give a lot of credit to the head coach, Yvonne Bondarenko, who has carried this team for the last 3 years before I arrived. We have a ton of talent on this team, despite pool hopping and dry land in a parking lot and everything that these kids have gone through. You know, we've had 16 and 20 kids at the Junior Nationals. We have 4 kids that have qualified for the Junior World Trials. So there's a Junior World Championship, and there's 4 kids on this program that are going to go to that meet in April. So the kids hung in there and done a great job, but the coaching staff has really knocked it out of the park.
So you're pleased where you're at right now?
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is only going to make it better, bigger and better.
Yeah.
Is there a difference? And again, pretend I don't know anything about diving because I know enough to get myself in trouble. But is there a big difference between a diver that is capable on a springboard compared to a platform? And is there a barrier there, or how do you coach and teach all that?
Well, you know, usually someone who's a springboard diver can dive platform and vice versa. What the barrier is fear.
Okay.
Fear and injury.
Okay.
The pounding you take on 10 meter, you do hit the water at 33 miles an hour, which is about the same force as a football player has, except you have no helmet and no pads. So there's a fear factor and a physically being able to take the pounding.
Okay.
A lot of times people will specialize these days. They'll be just a springboard diver or more or less sort of just a platform diver, especially when you really get to the upper levels of competition.
Right.
The kids here at Mission Viejo, a lot of them do all 3 events, 1 meter, 3 meter, and platform. Yeah. Some of them are, you know, a little less capable on tower because of a wrist or a back or whatever it might be.
There is no, I remember back when the pool was in operation that there was a system where it would kind of cushion you underneath.
Right, the bubbler.
The bubbler, right, thank you. But during a dive competition, that's done.
Right, that's only a training tool.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really fun, and this facility here has got it everywhere, is the kids can get in a harness and they're attached to ropes and pulleys, and the coach can actually, as they spin through the air, a coach can actually hold them.
Got you.
This facility is a little bit unique. Not a lot of facilities in the country have it. It's called water belts. So the harness system is actually over the water.
Wow.
And that will certainly help kids not, you know, hurt themselves. It's not a sport where you really get hurt, but every sport has components of it that are, you know, there's a little pain here and there if you land wrong, for sure.
And there is a certain camaraderie in this sport,
right.
And there's a special athlete. I know that swimmers and divers get up very early for pool time, but there is a certain dedication that not all athletes have to their sports. Can you tell me about that aspect of coaching and being a diver when you were doing it?
Well, the common denominator among divers is fear and overcoming fear. That's the common denominator. And so you get pretty tight with your teammates, because the other thing, you know, much like ice skating, we're all watching ice skating right now on television, it's a split-second thing. Right. And if you're flying through the air and your hand slips off your leg, it can end very differently. Yeah. So on any given minute, any given second in a dive, things can happen, and the divers realize that. So some of what I like about this team is the kids are genuinely like best friends. They go to dance parties outside the team. They go skiing, they do all kinds of things together. And we've got a great camaraderie on this team.
How did you get over fear, or do you ever get over fear as a diver? Because I guess some people say if you don't have fear,
right.
then, you know.
Healthy respect and all that, yeah.
Tell me about that aspect, and how do you coach that?
Well, you know, the nice thing here, and as the sport has evolved, is there's a lot of safety things. The sparger system, you know, called the bubbles, that helps. The overhead harnesses help, but there is a moment in time where fear has to become your friend, and you need to learn how to manage fear. The cool thing about diving and managing fear is once you know how to do that, years later, before you give a speech in front of an audience, you're doing the same thing as you did when you're up on 10 meter, and you're making fear your friend. Right. So a lot of learning how to do it is just going and doing it and finding out what works inside of you to overcome and basically throw yourself to the universe, you know, off the edge of the tower.
How long does it take before a diver is very comfortable with a dive and its routine? And you mentioned the ice skating, and I was thinking and watching that, I'm like, they have done that routine hundreds and hundreds of times, and they're going to come into an Olympic format and they're going to do it again, but there's a thing called pressure and all of that.
Right.
So how do you stay intact? I mean, you did it twice. I mean,
Yeah.
you were the second best in the world twice.
Yeah.
But how do you do that?
You know, the whole sports psychology, there's a whole mental component to any sport. You know, racing sports are a little bit different than performance sports.
Yeah.
So swimmers have a little different way of doing it than divers might. It's something that you learn, you know, over time. And we have been starting to provide to this team sports psychologists that come out, you know, for kind of a seminar over the weekend to kind of talk through some of those things. There's been a ton of research done in the last, 30 years about being in the zone. Well, the question is, how do you get to the zone?
Yeah.
And that's where you bring in the professionals. And luckily, one of my old teammates, Dr. Megan Nair, is a sports psychologist. So she was just here a couple of weeks ago talking to our team.
That's amazing.
And it's, it's fun to be in something for a long time and be able to tap into people that you know that she wore the bathing suit, she climbed the ladder, and now she's talking to the kids about, how to get over some fear factors.
She walked the walk, that's for sure.
She sure did, yeah.
If you have an athlete that, I'll take my kids. Last night I told them, last night I told them what I was doing today. And they're high-level competitive cheerleaders, actually on a plane right now going to Dallas.
Wow.
Two sons and a daughter. Mm-hmm. And I see what they can do on the floor, and meaning, the tumbling. And I told my daughter, I go, Mackenzie, you'd be awesome at this. She goes, those people are crazy. I go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're crazy. You're flying through the air and landing on people. And she goes, no, they're landing in water. That's nuts. But can you take an athlete like that late in teenage years?
Absolutely.
You can.
Yeah, sure.
Huh. Tell me how that works.
Well, diving is the acrobatic mindset. It's the daredevil. If you've got a 5-year-old that's a daredevil that's trying flips off the side of your backyard pool, or they're climbing furniture as a child, they're the kind of athletes we want.
Yeah, I got 5 of them, sorry.
Yeah, well, bring them on out. We got room. So those are the types of athletes that kind of gravitate toward diving. It's the daredevils that gravitate.
Okay. I know we only have a couple minutes with you, so I wanted to just make mention that it is the Marguerite Aquatics Center, of course. Right. You have a big event coming up on Memorial Day weekend. That's May 25th. What can you tell us about that invitational?
Well, that is an annual invitational. It's called the Greg Louganis Diving Invitational. It'll be here Memorial Day. Prior to that, on April 7th, we have a grand opening. The place is going to be stuffed with people, probably to the tune of about 2,500 citizens of the community that want to come out. Greg will be here for that as well. Brian Goodell is going to be swimming the first swim. Rowdy Gaines, you've heard his voice a million times. He's our MC.
Oh, nice.
So that's on April 7th. It's in the morning. I think it's like 10 to noon.
Okay.
And the pools are going to be open, facility open for just the general public to come. There's going to be all kinds of activities for kids, things like that. And then away we go. I mean, we've got a lot of diving and swimming meets coming up all summer long. And I was on the phone this morning with an international team that's banging the doors to get in here.
Really? When do you get to practice in this pool before it opens on the 29th, or is that the construction? Yeah.
Right? It all has to do with the permits and being released by the health department. But yeah, I think that we may be able to dip a toe in slightly before the grand opening as a team. And, these kids and these parents, they're ready. It's been a long haul.
So who gets to dive off the platform first? Do you get a lottery or what?
I haven't even given that a thought in terms of the team and who in the team gets to dive first. I'm not sure we're going to record that in the annals of history for the Marguerite Aquatics Center. But the first official dive, that's a different story.
Yeah. Can you share that at all or no?
It's going to be a little bit of a surprise at the grand opening. We'll just say it's a generational dive.
Okay, I gotcha.
There you go.
That would be pretty. Oh, I got it in my head right now.
And it's not me in a Speedo, I guarantee it.
Well, you look great.
Thanks.
You sound great, and I know the city of Mission Viejo is super excited to have you.
They are.
And I know on this cool afternoon that the next time we do this, we'll be in much less attire. And I have to just ask you before I let you go, what is your overall goal this year as you get started with this team? And I know that's a pretty big question, but
No, I think the overall goal is to get the team, not in terms of the quality of what we have now, but to expand the team in terms of having the community bring their children to the program.
Yeah.
The program, because of the pool hopping and that kind of thing, as soon as we get back in here, we've got lots of room for new children to join us.
Yeah.
And diving is a super fun sport. There's a lot of rewards from this sport. There's a real sense of accomplishment being a diver. And I would invite anybody who's got a Daredevil who's trying flips off the bed to bring them on out for lessons, because we'll have space.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your time,
Yep.
and I appreciate you dealing with that reflector over there on your face.
That's okay. I'll put my sunglasses on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Excellent. We'll be back with a person in the city of Mission Viejo that was very instrumental in how all this took place. We'll hear from her in just a minute.
Why go anywhere else for your remodel project when you can find everything here at Decor and Tile? Our expert staff has years of experience, which is passed on to you whether you are a homeowner, contractor, or designer. At Decor and Tile, we make your project easy with our beautiful and unique showroom filled with tile, stone, decorative glass, wood tile, granite, and quartz like Pentel, Caesar Stone, and USA Cambria. Find out why Decor and Tile is the most referred showroom in South Orange County. Come in, call, or visit us on the web today.
An $8 million project doesn't happen overnight, and it needs a lot of help in raising the funds. Joining me now is Kimberly Barnes, and her job was to raise the funds and help raise the funds for this spectacular aquatic center here at Mission Viejo. And I know that I just asked you, I said, Kimberly, did you get paid to do that? And you said,
nope.
you volunteered.
You get paid in hugs and kisses from the children. That's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Yeah, so how proud are you now, directly to your left, that this is pretty close? I mean, we heard the hammers and the pounding a little while ago. The guys are getting off work right now late in the day, but it sure is amazing looking.
It is. It's been a long process, and it's, more than just me. I'm a tiny little cog in a gigantic wheel.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of people.
But you're on the TV show.
True. It's been a lot of people. The community of Mission Viejo is phenomenal. Our city managers, the club. I mean, we have great parents and children that, are willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And that's been really what's gotten us to the point that we're at now. A lot of hard
You
work.
are a lot younger than I am, and I'm thinking that you might not have been here 30 years ago when well, I don't even know how long it is now, 30 plus, when this place was just cooking. It was amazing. The Greg Louganis, and of course, everybody that was diving and put the footprint. Were you around then? Did you happen to experience any of that?
Actually, no. I was born and raised in Hawaii.
Okay.
My dad was a diver when he was younger, and that was about the exposure I got to the sport. He talked about Greg Louganis all the time, and then got married, eventually moved out to California and had a daughter, and kind of just put her in a rec sport, and she loved it, and then the rest is history.
So her real name is Alexandra, shortened to Alex, shortened to, changed a little bit to Allie from a dive coach.
Right.
So you're a proud mom and you're involved in this, but what did it take on the fundraising side? I know you want to thank some people. There was a donor that donated upwards of $500,000 without it. I believe it's the Gilliland family? Yes, and tell me about that.
Okay, it's really an awesome story. It's one of these things where the actual project is closer to $11 million, and a lot of support from the city and a lot of folks. But what happened was, when the initial project was put together, there was no funding for the tower. That piece of equipment itself alone is roughly $1 million, and we, there's no money for that. We're a nonprofit. I mean, we're just, hand to mouth, taking care of the kids and moving the program along. So what happened is amazing. We have also a master's program in diving as well as in swimming. And one of our master's divers, Sarah, got involved, found out that there was a potential that we would not be able to replace the tower. Her family has a foundation, and they donate a lot to the arts and a lot of different things. Went home, made a phone call, and the rest is history. Wow. We literally got a phone call saying, my family foundation is going to donate $500,000 for the diving program, and to make sure that we are able to replace that tower. And
that's amazing.
It is.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now,
they're angels.
As a mom, and you heard Michelle talk about it, you guys have been pool hopping for 18 months, and that's got to be hard. How logistically, how difficult was that?
Well, it's tough, because as cold as it is right now, our children are diving at 9:30, and they'll be diving tonight at 9:30. It's less than 50 degrees. It's windy. They're freezing, and they're throwing themselves off a board. So they have a true love for the sport. And I thank all the parents, because we're going to 3 different locations sometimes in one evening. We have to drive to do tower all the way to LA to USC or to Rose Bowl on the weekends. So you're talking 5 and 6 days a week. Your children have homework. You got to get them fed. They're driving. So, and it's been a long road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so April 7th, can you tell us about a little bit more than Michelle did briefly talk about it?
Yes.
But April 7th is the grand reopening, so to speak, about this complex.
It's going to be a huge to-do, and we're super excited about it. The city has really partnered with us and the community as well. It's going to be open to the public. We're going to have a bunch of Olympians here. So it's going to be just a huge event.
Yeah.
We're drawing in international, interest. So there's going to be a lot of people. Everybody's looking to Mission Viejo right now.
Sure.
There is no other platform like this. So it's going to bring a lot of international events.
There could be Olympic trial events here.
Absolutely. And the reason our tower is different than the others, USC and some of these others, is our tower is wider and it will accommodate for synchronized diving.
Okay.
And the others don't.
Okay.
So that's a huge perk for us.
That definitely makes sense looking at the complex right now. As a mom, what are you most proud of that you have a daughter diving? Obviously, you're not just a mom that sits on the sidelines.
It's just an amazing thing to watch your children, and this sport in particular teaches them how to deal with, you're in that moment, and you practice for hundreds of hours, and when you're in that moment, they fail a lot more than they succeed. And when you can look at your young child and they learn how to deal with failure that a lot of adults can't deal with, and they're able to pull it together and get onto the next dive or move on or shake it off, you can't be more proud than than you are in that moment when you see how they respond to those things and how they persevere. It's great life lessons. It's a character building sport for sure.
And sometimes the parents hang on to their failures a lot longer than the kids.
You show up and you laugh when you need to laugh, you cry when you need to cry, but ultimately it's their sport. Yeah. And so you just need to be there and not put any extra pressure because they do it for themselves. They really do.
Here we are in approaching March and not too far from the opening of the complex again. What are you most proud of, and is there anybody else that you want to thank? Because you said you're one of many. I just got inside a minute left in the show today, so I wanted to give you that opportunity.
Okay, well, we do want to thank the city managers, the city council. There's so many different names. We have we still have to continue to fundraise. It's an ongoing effort. So we do have a donor wall. We have some availability for that, so you can check our websites, MVN Swim, MVN Dive. A lot's going to be coming out with the grand opening. We'll have flyers and a lot of those things, a lot going on. We have weekly meetings. But I basically want to thank the entire community of Mission Viejo, the parents, the taxpayers, just everyone, teachers, coaches. I'm super excited about Michelle Mitchell coming on board. She's our shining star right now, and she's definitely going to take us to the next level. And Coach Schubert, there's great things coming. It's really exciting.
And the guys that were pounding are no longer pounding because they've left for the day. We got to thank them too, right?
Absolutely.
All the developer, construction guys that came out and and obviously do a great job. You've done a wonderful job. You and I have been talking the last several months, and here we are, and we're so close to it. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Things like this would not happen without people like you and pushing people along. So you want to come work with me?
Can I get paid this time?
Sure. Let's talk. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.